In section 6.3, we're looking at proportions. We'll define a proportion, we'll determine whether two ratios form a proportion, and then we'll solve proportions. So by definition, a proportion is a statement that two ratios or rates are equal. So if I write a proportion for 3 is to 18 as 4 is to 24, it ends up looking like this. And there's a number of ways we can test if this in fact is a true proportion. We could reduce 3/18 to 1/6, and we could reduce 4/24 to 1/6, and we could see that they're equal. We could divide 3 by 18, and 3 divided by 18 is 0.16 repeating, and 4 divided by 24 is also equal to 0.16 repeating. And the last way is we can look at the cross products. If two ratios are equal and form a proportion, their cross products are equal. So if I multiply 18 times 4, I get 72. And if I multiply 3 times 24, I get 72. And so if the cross products are equal, we have a true proportion. So next we're going to determine whether these ratios form a proportion. So I'm going to take their cross products. I'm going to multiply 5 times 24, and that equals 120. And then I'm going to multiply 30 times 4, and that equals 120. So yes, this is a proportion. Next, I'm looking at 9/10 and deciding if that is equal to 8/9. So taking the cross products, 10 times 8 is 80, 9 times 9 is 81. So the cross products are not equal, so no, this is not a true proportion. So we're going to solve proportions now, and by solving a proportion, I'm looking for the value x that will make this a true proportion. So our steps are going to be to set the cross products equal to each other, solve the equation, check the solution. So I'm going to start with 20 times x, which is 20x, and set that equal to 28 times 5. So 20x is equal to 140. And then I divide by the coefficient 20, and x is equal to 7. So I can check this by multiplying 20 times 7 is 140, 28 times 5 is 140. Next, I'll solve proportion B here. I'm going to start with 15 times x, which is 15x, and that equals 3 times 10. So 15x is equal to 30, and dividing by the coefficient 15, x is equal to 2. In letter C, I'm going to start with the cross product that contains the variable 24w equals 8 times 30, 8 times negative 30. So 24w equals negative 240, and dividing by the coefficient 24, negative 240 divided by 24 is negative 10. The next proportion involves fractions. I have 6 times y, which is 6y, equals 1/3 times negative 1/2. So 6y equals negative 1/6. And now I divide by 6, and y is equal to negative 1/6 divided by 6. I change that to multiplied by the reciprocal 1/6, and I get y equals negative 1/36. This proportion contains decimals. I have 1.3 times h equals 2.6 times 0.5. So 1.3h is equal to 1.3. And dividing by the coefficient 1.3, h is equal to 1. So we have some application problems, and we're going to set up and solve proportions. And first we have, suppose 2 adults produce 63.4 pounds of garbage in 1 week. And at the same rate, how many pounds of garbage will 20 adults produce? So my proportion is going to deal with the number of adults to the number of pounds of garbage they generate. And I'm going to write this out in words so that I make sure that I keep the order consistent. So my first ratio is 63.4 pounds and 2 adults. So I have 2 over 63.4, and it says how many pounds. So my unknown quantity is in the denominator with the pounds. Will 50 adults produce? So I have 2 times x equals 63.4 times 50. So 2x is equal to 3,170, and dividing by the coefficient 2, x is equal to 1,585, and that's pounds. We're going to put a label on all word problems. Next, we're talking about a 15-foot flagpole, and it casts a 4-foot shadow. So I'll draw a picture of this 15-foot flagpole, and it casts a shadow that is 4 feet. And I'm going to make this into a right triangle. And how long will the shadow be of a 90-foot building? And what we have here is called similar triangles. And by similar, it means the shapes are the same. So the corresponding angles are the same. And the corresponding sides are proportional. So this is my 90-foot building, and we want to know how long the shadow is going to be. So I'm going to look at the corresponding sides because they are proportional. So this 15-foot height of the building, and that's going to correspond to the 90-foot height. This was 15-foot flagpole, corresponds to the 90 feet height of the building. And then we're going to look at the shadows heights. And the 15-foot corresponds to this, or gives this 4-foot shadow. And this 90-foot building has this unknown shadow. So we're going to solve this proportion by taking the cross products. So I have 15x equals 90 times 4. So 15x equals 360. and I divide by 15, and X is going to equal a 24-foot shadow. Yellowstone National Park has the largest population of free-roaming bison. We want to approximate the number of bison. And what they do is they capture 200 bison and they tag them, and then they let them roam. And later, a sample of 120 bison are observed, and they see that 6 have tags. And we're going to use this to approximate the number of bison in the park. So what we're looking at is the tagged bisons to the population of bisons, or bison. So when we took a sample of 120 bison and observed 6 have tags, so 6 out of 120. And we have 200 bison that we capture and tag them. So we have 200 tagged bison in the park out of all bison in the park. So we're comparing our sample where we have 6 out of 120 bison to the total park, which has a total of 200 tagged bison out of the total population. So taking the cross products, 6x is equal to 120 times 200. So 6x is equal to 24,000. And when I divide that by 6, x is going to be 4,000 bison in the park. So earlier I mentioned similar figures, and so two triangles have corresponding sides that are proportional, and they're called similar triangles. So this side right here, 3 feet, corresponds to 6 feet on the larger triangle. And 4 feet, the base of this triangle, corresponds to 8 feet. And 5 feet, which is also called the hypotenuse, is corresponding to 10 feet. And you'll see that these are all in the same ratio. So we're going to use this idea of similar triangles to find the missing sides, x and then y. So starting with x, the side that corresponds with x is this 2.3. So 2.3 corresponds to x. Now I need another ratio to be able to solve this proportion, and I don't want to pick this side too, because then I would have 2 unknown quantities. So I'm going to use this ratio, 2 feet to 5 feet. And so 2x is equal to 2.3 times 5. So 2x is equal to 11.5. And now I'm going to divide by 2. And x is 5.75. So that's right here, 5.75 feet. And now we're going to find y. So the side that corresponds with the y is this 2. So 2 corresponds with y. And then I can pick either 2.3 to 5.75 or 2 to 5. So 2 to 5 is going to be easier. So 2y equals 10. Dividing by 2, y equals 5, which is what we would expect. 2 to 5 equals 2 to 5.